You're watching Melanie's Matters TV and radio show, where we highlight artists, business owners, and we talk about the matters of the community. Today's guest, Dr. Rosalind
Hello,
Aker-Black,
everyone,
human
and welcome
trafficking.
to Melanie's Matters. I'm very excited about today's show because we have Dr. Aker-Black, who is a good friend of the show. And last time she was on, she spoke about stalking. And what we all probably didn't know is a very big epidemic in the world, you know, and especially in the United States. You know, stalking is unfortunately huge, and it gets worse with technology.
Yes,
it gets worse with technology. So Dr. Aker-Black, she's back today, ladies and gentlemen. And this topic, I honestly must say that I didn't believe that it's going on.
Oh,
you know, I really didn't believe it. So we're talking about human trafficking. You know, it's a big epidemic, unfortunately. So welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely, absolutely. And guys, if you didn't know, the last show that she did, she had like 3,000 views, which is awesome. And that's just on one platform, which is completely amazing. So she definitely adds value to the show. So thank you. Thank you so much.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's just talk about this thing that I think no one really wants to talk about. So human trafficking, what is it?
So first of all, I think people have this idea that human trafficking is, have you seen the movie Taken?
I have.
And when the young girls are like dragging under the bed, that is an idea of human trafficking, but that's not all that human trafficking is.
Okay.
So what most people don't realize is that human trafficking is not a third world country situation.
Yeah, I was going to say it.
It happens right here, and we're here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, which is a huge pocket for human trafficking. This is one of the hot spots. So what trafficking really means is that someone being forced or taken against their will. Mm-hmm. So whether it's for labor, because there's labor trafficking, for sex trafficking,
right,
or harvesting organs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, being taken for organs. Yeah. So there are, it is the third largest, I want to say that human trafficking is the third largest trafficking issue besides drugs and guns and weapons.
Okay.
That our nation is dealing with. And it is like a $13 billion industry.
How does that happen? I'm really blown away. How does that happen?
All right. So there's money in it. And part of trafficking is the oldest profession ever. Prostitution.
Yeah, prostitution. Okay.
You'd be surprised who buys into that. A lot of who we would think are elite.
Yes.
Individuals, so businessmen, businesswomen, Congress, police officers, anybody that you might think that's a professional,
Right.
They spend money for this type of industry, I'll say. So let me just explain what human trafficking is.
Okay.
It's not the whole idea of if you're walking down the street. You remember the kidnap van? The van with like no windows?
Yeah.
I call it the kidnap van.
Right.
It's not that like you're walking down the street and someone's just gonna come grab and take you.
Okay.
Like, that's not what human trafficking is. Trafficking within itself is a seduction. And so what I mean by that is that the individual can be seduced into a situation. And it can be very mild in the beginning, and then become overly aggressive after time. So I'll tell you how I got into human trafficking. In another state I lived in, I worked with an individual who was trafficked every day, but went home at night.
Okay.
So a lot of people think that you're kidnapped,
Right.
you're taken.
Right.
You can be trafficked every day and still go home to your house.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit about that story, and then I'll explain a little bit more about what trafficking is.
Okay.
So with this individual, again, trafficking is when you are taken against your will or forced to do something against your will. So with this individual that I worked with, she was not, this is what makes you a victim. And I don't mean to be mean, I don't mean to be rude, but people that are very isolated,
Right.
people who struggle with making friends, who may not be in the in crowd, they're susceptible to being victims. So with this young lady, she was a high school student, never had a boyfriend, never like had a date, never had a guy like look at her in a certain kind of way. And then all of a sudden, the hottest guy with the coolest car in the school became very interested in her. So he seduced her, but it didn't take him long to seduce her because she had never had that situation.
Yeah, the
attention. And he was the hottest guy in class, at the school. He was an upperclassman. And so there's an allure to that. If you could think back to like when you were in high school, when an upperclassman likes you.
Right, that's big.
That's big. It's a big deal.
Yeah.
So it started out really sweet, innocent, talking on the phone, meeting her in her locker, carrying her books to class, texting, texting sweet things, buying her stuff. It's very innocent in the beginning. And then one day he's like, hey, I want to spend time with you after school. Now her mother still picked her up from school.
Okay.
So, and she knew that her parents weren't going to be open to her dating.
Right.
So she concocted some story like she had this after school, but that she would get a ride home with a neighborhood friend. So the mom and them were okay with the neighborhood friend, so they were okay with that.
Right.
And because she had been such an isolated student, it was like, okay, she's getting out, she's doing something. Right. So as she gets in the car with him, and he's like, oh, I have to stop at my uncle's house, do you mind? And of course she's like, wow, he wants me to meet his family. He must really like me. So she's like, no. And he's like, it's on the way to your home. That should have been her first clue, because he'd never been to her home. She'd never told him where she lived. So he had no idea. So that lets you know that he was stalking her a little bit outside of the classroom situation. I will say this about her parents. This was a very high class kind of family. The dad was very kind of important in his profession. And so, but of course, she's like all excited, like I'm gonna meet the family. This is gonna be great. She gets in the car, they go to this uncle's house, and it's in a suburban community. So she's not thinking anything like it's a bad place. Great neighborhood, nice neighborhood. She gets out, everything on the outside looks great. Everything on the outside looks normal. Everything on the outside looks like where she would go home at night. She goes into the house, and before she was able to leave, she had committed several sexual acts, anal, oral, vaginal, with about 32 men. And all were videotaped. With the threat of, if you tell anyone, we will leak this. This situation happened to her for a year. So every day after school, she'd go to the brothel and then be taken home. To the point to where it became her normal life. Her parents stopped because sometimes they make you do drugs. So she was doing drugs, trying to cope with the situation. So her parents, so with her already being like this isolated, withdrawn kind of personality anyway, it made sense when she started doing drugs, when her parents found the drugs, maybe about 6 months in. So they were actually trying to get treatment for the substance abuse, not really realizing that the treatment was needed for this trafficking. So one day mom just got smart, because moms, you kind of have that intuition. And she's like, this just isn't my baby, and I don't know what's going on with my baby. And like, we thought that she was becoming more social because she was doing this after school stuff. Let's really see what's going on with the after school stuff. So mom was the one that brought the brothel down. Mom followed her incognito home from school. So at first when she saw that she was leaving with this young guy, she was like,
no, she's
dating. Yeah, she's dating. So she just thought that, maybe this guy got her into drugs. But she was happy because her child was like, in a relationship, she's never had this, so maybe we can address this, like, he may not be the best guy for you, but I'm happy that you have a boyfriend. So mom followed her for a couple of days and just thought that maybe this is just like a first relationship kind of thing. Well, a couple of weeks, I think her mom followed. But then what clued mom in is while she was waiting or incognito watching, she saw someone that she knew come out of the home. should she then begin to investigate, like, what is
What's
this?
going on?
How are they connected? You know, who is this person? Because I know he doesn't live here. Like, what's going on here? Because at this time, she was thinking that was just the boyfriend's home. You know, so mom was the one that brought the brothel down because she did the investigation. She went up to the door, not really realizing how dangerous the situation was. You know, but at that time, when the mom found out, then that's when they released the girl. Because there was no threat over her anymore. They released her from the girl, and that's when she was able to tell everything. Because at the time, she was trying to save her family. It's that whole seduction process. If you do this, if you tell anybody, I'll kill your mom and your dad. We'll put it all out over the internet that you're this. And so she was dealing with that for like 8 to 9 to 10 months, you know, of her life, but going home every night. So trafficking is not just about, I'm gonna kidnap you off the street. That is one way of trafficking. But you can be trafficked in a situation of, you know, in that type of situation. So trafficking is the force that is over you being forced to do something. So it is one of these third world country, it isn't one of these third world country issues because a lot of people are being trafficked into the United States. You know, and so people are here for labor. You know, so guys get trafficked too. It's just not a female issue. Boys get trafficked, and they get trafficked for labor. And unfortunately, some of these cities that we think are very beautiful,
those are ones,
have been built on the back of trafficking.
I can believe it.
Yeah, some of these, like Dubai, and I'll just put that one out there, built on the back of trafficking. So you really have to do your research in terms to see, you know, what really is taking place in terms of trafficking. So with guys, you can be labor, and kids. There are about 27 million adults that are trafficked every day, and about 13 million children. So at this time, there are more slaves because that's what it is, slavery. There are more slaves in this world than there's ever been. Even when it was legal to have slaves, there are more slaves now than it's ever been. And so trafficking is a huge issue because it's hard to stop. You don't know who's funding it. You don't know where the money is coming from. And just in this area alone, maybe about a year and a half ago, there was a trafficking ring through the 7-Eleven stores, through New York all the way down here to Virginia. There was a trafficking ring. These brothels are not in these bad neighborhoods. They're in suburban areas across the land, you know. So you don't think anything bad is taking place. So trafficking is a huge issue in the sense of and we'll talk about this probably, I'm sure you're gonna ask me about this a little later, when the women become the prostitutes. I guess people are like, couldn't they just leave? And even when you do rescue them, because I've been on a couple of rescue missions of trying to rescue prostitutes or traffic victims. And I don't want to call them prostitutes because most of them were kids. They have like this undying love towards their pimp. And sometimes, and most trafficking victims, when it's young girls, it's because they've run away and they've been sexually abused anyway. So this is kind of like a reality for them. And this is what they see their life is always going to be. And this is kind of like the function. And the pimp gives them a place to sleep. Gives them a place to lay their head. They have food. It may not be the best of places. But if they came from a very rough situation where they were neglected and no one cared for them, it's an upgrade. So it's very hard to get them to see that, listen, this is not, this isn't right. Another trafficking, another trafficking, human trafficking in the second place is pornography with kids. So these kid pornography, and you would think, like, who's watching this? But there's an audience.
There are people watching it.
There is an audience. There is an audience for children, child pornography. And there are very, very, very intelligent ways of like hiding it. So you almost have to be like a hacker to like find these websites that are like selling these kids. And most slaves go for like 90 bucks.
What?
Yeah, 90 bucks. Yep. Yeah, And they're sold as young as 6.
So when we have this epidemic of children being taken, children being snatched off the school grounds, the playgrounds, we can probably say that a portion of those kids are going to this human
Absolutely. Lots are being trafficked. Lots are being trafficked. I had the honor of meeting a young lady at a festival, just randomly meeting her. And I apologize, I can't call her name right now. But she was abducted as a child. And she says, she's like, I think I'm 53, because she doesn't know her real age because she was abducted, yeah. And she's like, there are a lot of us still living. A lot of kids that have been abducted are still like, you know, because when we're getting abduction, we're like, oh God, if they don't find them within 24 hours, 48 hours,
and
they're
that makes
dead.
sense though.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
A lot of them are still living, but they don't know their families, especially if they were abducted
Yes,
if they're very young.
Yeah.
They don't know their families. They don't know their last origins, you know, and especially if they're adopted really, really young, they don't know those things. Like, and then if you have them for a while and you start telling them that you're mommy, then you're mommy.
Yeah.
You know, so when she reconciled, when she realized that she was abducted because a family member told her, you know, it was very hard for her to look at this woman who stole her, who she saw as mom. Yeah. So, you know, we start thinking like, oh, these people that are missing, like that's the biggest fear anybody could ever have.
Yes.
Any parent could ever have.
Yes.
You know, or just yourself.
Right.
Nobody wants to go missing,
right?
You don't want to be the person that's on the milk
news.
carton. Yeah. But a lot of them, yes, we can assume that a lot of them are in the trafficking arena. So either they're being trafficked for labor or for sex, which is unfortunate, or harvesting organs, which is very unfortunate. So the black market is real, and it's $1 billion industry. $1 billion industry.
And then you have powerful people that are behind this.
Yeah, it's not like you and I.
Right.
You know, it's not like it's not like we're going and saying, hey, I want to buy this kid. You know, it's not. It's.
This is sick.
Yeah, it is. It is. Which is why it's a hard issue to fight.
Yes.
It's a hard issue to fight because first you have to prove.
Okay.
You know, first you got to figure out who the players are. And that's not always so easy because they're very great at, you know, layering.
Yes.
It's very elaborate. It's a very elaborate scheme. Yeah. You know, they're very good at like putting the money towards something else to where it looks legit.
I'm very saddened by this for a lot of different reasons. Number one, we supposed to live in a country that is freedom. It stands for freedom. We have the Statue of Liberty. It's freedom.
Yeah.
But we have people in power who are really at liberty of taking the freedom from people. I don't understand how this fits.
And you know, you'd be surprised, and this isn't, I'm not saying this is all law enforcement, but just here in DC, remember there was a DC cop that was arrested because he was a pimp? He was trafficking young girls. So you have all types of people who are in on this game. I'll give you another example. I was in Chinatown in DC, which is, you know, it's where the Verizon building. For those who are not in the DC area, it's a very lively kind of area, yeah. And we had some friends in town visiting, so we gone out to dinner there, and we were just kind of hanging out on the street. And we saw the pimp, we saw the girls, but we also saw the cops. So we're like, if we see this, how do you not see it? Yeah, you know, they've seen it. You know, so it's just kind of like, it's that whole idea of, it's frustrating for law enforcement because it's like, how we save these girls. The problem is, the girls get arrested for prostitution. They're not the real culprits of this whole human trafficking thing.
Right.
They get arrested for prostitution, so they're deemed as the bad person, as the problem. But they're not. It's the pimp. And you know, this is what I tell people all the time. When you're going out on a night of drinking, you know, you think you're being responsible by taking a cab home. You know, because you're not drinking and driving. Don't ever tell a cab driver where you live. Cab drivers are in on this thing too. So it's the idea that if you have been drinking, you're a little inebriated, right?
Yes.
They know exactly where to live. They know exactly where to tell somebody else to come and get you. Or when you're traveling out of town. And this happened to A friend of mine, she was traveling out of town, and funny, she actually worked in human trafficking, caught a cab, realized that she wasn't going in the right direction.
Oh.
Yeah. And so she was smart enough to say, hey, I'm not going in the right direction.
Right.
Like, what's going on? So had the police, like, she contacted, after she confronted the cab driver, he was like, oh, speak English. You know how they, you know,
yeah.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
And she called the police. I don't know where he's taking me, but he's not taking me in the direction I need to go. So I always tell people that you need to know that if you have someone pick you up when you're out of town, you need to know exactly where you're going, the area, how to get there. And with Google nowadays, with these Android phones, you can Google like what's directions and see if you're going in the right direction. So the police kind of met her at the hotel, but what was happening is that was a hotel designed for trafficking. So it was a late night flight. It was very late, you know, and so when you take these late flights and you're trying to get places, you just have to be careful. And I'm not just saying as a woman, but just as a man too.
Yeah.
Because men get trafficked too. Like, you don't really hear men missing as much, but they are trafficked. And typically they're trafficked for labor, or they are trafficked, especially if they are nice looking, they are trafficked to be the person to go get the, to be the seducer. Yeah. So trafficking is a multi-layered kind of situation that it's hard to get a grasp on, because people get seduced in a situation because they trust someone.
Yeah.
So by the time, just think, you know, you and I both are married.
Right.
We love our husbands.
Right.
You know, if they were to do something right now that was totally out of character, we would have a very hard time to be like, is this my husband?
Right.
Like, this is not the man that I know. This is not the man that I love.
Right.
So that is what takes place with these people who are seduced and trafficked. You know, this person is like, I love you, I'll take care of you, I'll treat you better, I'll do 12 times better. And then when they flip the script, by then they already have you emotionally.
Right.
So it's too hard logically to try to figure out, like, what's going on here. You know, and so in that instance, that's how a lot of people get caught in trafficking, and then there for the long haul. And that's just like the surface of trafficking. There's so much more to it that I'm sure we'll get to throughout the interview.
So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a brief break. Of course, I'm just blown back, you know, because these are the issues that we need to talk about that we don't talk about. You know, we have kids, we have nieces, we have nephews, we have ourselves, so we always have to be vigilant about what's going on all the time. You know, and it's sad.
Watching Melanie's Matters TV and radio show. A word from our sponsors. So you think you can sing and you like to dress up? Well, join Lawn Jack events every third and fourth Thursday of every month. Visit lawnjackevents.com. Never judge a book by its cover. 10 true stories. Men will understand, women will relate. You can find A Typical Journey on Amazon.com or by visiting www.melaniesworks.com. You had a long day at work. Now it's time to go home, chill out, and relax. But don't forget to grab your bottle of Spirits Amore, now available in 2 great tastes, Sensual Melon Breeze and Summer Skies, available at www.melaniesworks.com or call 443-790-6303.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back, and we're here with Dr. Aker-Black, and I'm blown because this subject is so hard. Human trafficking is so hard to imagine that literally you can walk out your door one day and be trafficked.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
And it's real because of the power that's behind it.
Yes, absolutely. You know, and a lot of us, we participate in trafficking every day and we don't realize it.
How so?
Yeah, so what I mean by that is like, if you think about our industries like nail shops, massage parlors, a lot of the women or men that work in that facility, they've been trafficked. Have you ever been to the nail shop and you see like this random man just in there?
Just in there.
You're like, what is up with this random dude? Right?
Yeah,
You've had that experience?
yes. I mean, yes.
So typically what happens with those individuals is that they've been promised this ideal life once they get here into the States. But what happens is that they get here. So those tips that you're giving in terms of, you know, like you're trying to pay for your service, it goes into the trafficking. It goes into the pot. So what happens is that they take their passports and they never give them passports. So they're holding them hostage. So they can't go tell anyone, because then they'll be deported, because they probably left a situation that was so bad, you know, that this is like much better to come to. But a lot of these nail shops, a lot of these massage parlors, there was one right on New York Avenue, I believe, in DC that was busted because it was in like this office community, and someone noticed that the women never went home. Like they were always there, and this is like an office facility. So it was like you're there all night, all day. So there was like a sting of human trafficking that was going on inside of there. Yeah. So, you know, you think you're going to a massage parlor just because you're having a spa day, not realizing the type of life that the individuals that are providing the service that they're having to deal with when they're not providing service with you. And they dare not tell you, because then they'll be shipped back to a situation that probably wasn't great for them in their other countries. So human trafficking is a huge situation, and it goes across the industries that we don't know. So that's kind of how they get money, you know, because innocent people like us pay into it.
And you, like you say, innocent because we don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. So like 7-Eleven, like for the life of me, I'm like, how are they managing this ring of human trafficking? But they're bringing in people they're hiring people to kind of work, and you're thinking workers getting paid, but they're labor traffickers. Yeah. So they're working around the clock. They're making money because 7-Eleven is making money. You know, and the thing about 7-Eleven is that it's kind of independently owned kind of thing. So it's not like it's like a chain of like a regular grocery store, or like Walmart. It's not like a chain, right? It's owned by one family, but it's an independently owned kind of situation from my understanding. So because of that, well, franchisees, let me say that, franchisees. So because of that situation, you can't really maintain or control what's going on. And that's an easy way to front money, because 7-Eleven is open all day, every day. Yeah. You know, so it's like if they're making money, it kind of makes sense that they're making money because
they're open.
They're open all day. If they aren't making money, then that's just stupid to be open 24 hours around the clock, right? So they're making money all day, and so it was kind of easy to kind of hide. But can you imagine how many 7-Elevens up 95 North, up the 95 North-South corridor between Virginia to New York? How many people were being trafficked? I mean, think about that.
Yes.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And I can't remember the report of how many stores were actually a part of it, but just the idea that it can go from Virginia to New York.
Yes.
And it's a whole trafficking ring. So, with that being said, innocent people, we are participating in the industry and don't even realize we're participating in the industry. So, you know, if you see the little random guy at the nail shop, you know, ask questions. I mean, you know, that if you see something, say something kind of thing. You know, ask questions, because surely those workers are not going to say anything. It's their livelihood, and we don't know what's going to happen to them if they do expose. And so a lot of them are frightened because they have no other options. And that's the idea. The people that are trafficked, they feel as if they have no other options. But there are organizations out there like Courtney's House, which is right here in DC, and run by Tina Frump, I believe. And she's actually a victim of human trafficking. Wow. So I know that the OWN Network did a special on her.
I think it's African American.
Yeah. She is amazing. I had the honor of sitting on a panel with her in Alexandria, Virginia for Zeta Chi Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha. They did a whole symposium on human trafficking, and just hearing her story of how she was trafficked. And I want to tell it correctly, but it was kind of like she was in a situation where she met this guy, and he made her think that he was just gonna be everything to her. And she crossed the state lines to be with him. So that's another thing. When she started crossing state lines, it's kind of harder to find you because states don't have the same laws in terms of who's a minor, who's not a minor. You know, everybody thinks because you're 18, you're not a minor, but in some places, you're not a minor at 16, 17. You know, sorry, I don't have to break down in the states, but you know, in some states, it's not true across the board. Right. So if you go missing, and say, for instance, in Maryland, if you're 16, you're not a minor, and then you run away at 16.
Right.
And then you just go right to DC, where 18 might be a minor, or something like that, like that. Crossing those lines, and that's just 20 minutes over a border. But crossing those lines, they may not find you. They may not be able to do the Amber Alert. They may not be able to do a lot of these things because you weren't considered a minor. So it's very important. I always tell parents that kids can actually be virtually trafficked with social media nowadays.
Yes.
And so you have these babies who are sexting, right? They're sexting.
Yes.
They show body parts, not realizing that probably on the other end it's some horrible person that wants to exploit them, because that's what it is. It's exploitation. That wants to exploit them, and so now they send out their body parts because they think it's their boyfriend. Like the show Catfish. It's a huge phenomenon because people want to be connected. People want to believe that somebody likes them, somebody loves them. So they want to be connected to someone. And so that's how they were able to do a movie. That's how they were able to have a TV show for seasons. And you would think, like, how do you fall in love with somebody you just met online? Like, you never met in person. But you'd be surprised.
But it happens.
It happens all the time.
Yes.
And that's what I said, the victim is the person that's going to be susceptible to that is someone who's isolated, who's withdrawn, and never have had
that social
connection. They don't, things that might not seem normal to us.
Right.
It's like, like we might look at it with a side eye.
Right.
They actually see it as, oh my gosh, this is my opportunity.
Right.
Somebody loves me. They start giving them their money. So I tell parents all the time, you should absolutely manage all your kids' social media accounts. Instagram, that Snapchat, that's scary because you think you can take something back. But once somebody screenshots your picture, they have it. Forever. Yeah. There's this movie that I saw not too long ago called Disconnect. And it was about this, about how people were connected socially.
Right.
And there was this young kid who was socially withdrawn.
Right.
Met a young girl online that he thought was his girlfriend, but it was actually like two kids playing a prank on him, two of his high school mates playing a prank on him. And so they asked him to send pictures, and he did, and they sent it out to everybody in the school. And the kid tried to commit suicide. So even though even though that may have been seen as like just a high schoolish prank, the ramifications can be horrible.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because if anybody gets a hold of that, they can use it any kind of way that they want to. So you just have to be careful about what your kids are sending out. I think with the iPhone, I think if everybody's on the same plan, you can
like monitor.
Yeah, you can monitor the text. Like you get their text messages, so you see kind of what's coming in. I think that's the kids may hate it.
Right.
But
as a parent, you want to protect.
As a parent, you want to protect because there are vultures and leeches out here, and people they pull together fake Facebook profiles. There's just so many ways to trick you into being trafficked that we don't think about because we think it's all innocent. Yeah. So you have to really be diligent as parents because we think adults know not to just fall for someone. Right. But, sometimes adults don't know if they've never had that experience. Yeah. So, we kind of look at people like, how could you, really? You couldn't tell that was fake? Yeah. But if they've never had that experience, if you never experienced it, then you don't know.
Right. Because sometimes you think some things are just too far off to the left.
Yeah. Yeah, so like when people say they give somebody their life savings they never met, in my mind.
Yeah.
If I don't know who you are, you'll never get my money, right? Like, you're not gonna get anything from me. You can tell, I don't care if you told me that you love me to the moon.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know who you are. I can't track you down for no social security number, no family members.
No, nothing.
I can't track you down for nothing.
Right.
You don't know my family, I don't know your family.
Right.
That's a done deal. It's not happening.
Right.
But there are some people who've never had that type of attention, and this becomes like everything that they romanticize about what a relationship could be. A seduction. So again, human trafficking kind of begins with the seduction. It's a seduction process. I always tell people, when you go out drinking, you know, like if you're going out and you're like bar hopping or whatever, you gotta have one sober person in the group. Because you need somebody that's gonna look out for everybody. And what I mean by that, because if you know you're not the individual that can pull a Idris Elba, and the Idris Elba walks up to you, and you know in your life you've never had that type of experience. Now, I'm not saying your swag is not on point, though. I'm not saying that.
She's not saying that.
I'm not saying that you aren't good enough for Idris Elba. But what I'm saying, if you you know the type of attention you get. By the time you're club age, you know what you attract. If you've never attracted that guy, and that guy walks up to you, then you need to be a little cautious about what is that guy. Because the men that are trafficked to be the seducer, they're gorgeous. They are that guy.
I need you to hear this. Because, and I have daughters who are, in their 20s, and Doctor, please just explain that. Because I don't think the kids really get it.
Okay.
I don't think they really get that.
So typically, the seduction, it's gonna come across like this person is just too good to be true. But they're saying the right things, they're giving you what you need, and then they're gorgeous. They're taking pictures with you so that y'all can be all over Facebook. Like they're playing into the whole, they're playing into the whole relationship role. And they're not asking you of anything. They're not doing anything to draw red flags until they know they got you. And typically they've gotten you once they become intimate with you. Yeah. Because we all know how that works. So they got you, or they done something magnificent for you. So like maybe they giving you money, maybe they took you on a shopping spree. If you've never had got that before, you're like, oh my God, he bought me this. So typically you are, it's such an overwhelming feeling of like, he has to like me to do these things for me. There's no way he doesn't like me. We're always together. He can't be this bad person. No, you're the mark. You're the victim, and he's just
doing his job.
Doing his job to reel you in. It's a job for them. So be just kind of careful if you know that you don't pull that kind of. And same with guys. If you know you ain't never pulled a Halle Berry, I just because I just think she's beautiful. You've never pulled someone of her caliber, then, and not saying that your swag is not on point, not saying that you didn't look extra good at the time in the club, but if you know that's not your typical who you can, get with, then be susceptible about it. Think about that too, because she's gonna want to come to your house. She's gonna do all those things of wanting to be into you, giving you whatever it is that you've never received. And she's just seducing you to get you. So again, it's not something trafficking is not being taken off the streets. There are many forms of trafficking. So you have to be completely aware of what trafficking looks like, how it's presented, and those are ways that it's presented. And it's always going to come with a seduction piece if you're not kidnapped. But even if we think about the little young girl, Alicia Rudd, remember that? That was kidnapped from the homeless DC the homeless.
Yes.
So we haven't found her yet. Although her captor had killed his wife, and then they found him in a field dead. But we have video footage of him in a hotel walking hand in hand with her, and she's very comfortable with him. She's not afraid. She doesn't look scared. She's very comfortable with him. So, the first thing I thought of, he's going to sell this baby to somebody. The first thing that I thought of when I saw how close they were. And then it just makes sense because he let himself be seen.
Right.
Whoever he was selling her to, they probably knocked him off. You know, so there was no trail.
Right.
You know, of course, you know, people are like, Ross, that's such a conspiracy. But when you understand human trafficking, you understand how it works, it all makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a reality. You know, because where is she? How is she surviving?
Right.
Why have we not found her remains?
Right.
We found the wife's remains, we found his remains. Why have we not found hers? So it just seems like there is this possibility that that may be the case. We don't know. I mean, you know, I pray every day for this because she was the cutest little girl. And that's another thing. These cute babies, you have to teach your babies how not to be so engaging with everyone. You have to teach your babies, don't go get this candy.
That's right.
Don't, you know, whatever they offer you, if they're not a friend that mommy and daddy has shown you who they are, because these seducers, they're smart. They figure out who the parents are and they say, I'm a friend of your mommy,
That's right.
James. And because the kid hears James,
Right.
you know, and they know this or that, oh, okay, you must be my dad's friend. But if you've never introduced your child to this person, then you have to get them to understand that is not your friend. And you have to start doing that very young because kids are getting abducted very young and they're not being done by old men. I just heard on the news that these 3 kids were abducted by teenagers off the playground. Yeah. So, you know, he finally, I guess he got scared and they found him, like he turned himself in or whatever. Yeah. But, you know, when the story comes out about that, like what were his intentions? Right. Or think about the 3 young ladies in Ohio who were abducted by the Hispanic man, remember?
Yes.
Yeah, think about those. Yeah. That's trafficking. That's trafficking. He held them as slaves. And there were people all around them, that had no idea. Yeah. Even his own family members was like, I didn't know anybody was in that house.
Yeah. He would keep them locked up.
He kept them locked up. So that's trafficking. That is what trafficking looks like. So we have to educate ourselves on what is trafficking, what does it look like, and how many ways is it displayed. And because when we don't, then ignorance is just not an excuse when you get yourself caught up in a situation. So the more you know, the better you can do. You know? Yeah.
Okay, so on that note, we're going to take a break.
You're watching Melanie's Matters TV and radio show. A word from our sponsors. Capital of Maryland, the original Annapolis Street Bible by Mr. Jerome Waters. J&F Enterprises, bringing visions to reality, building the 21st century company. Visit jnfenterprises.com. If you have a special event or an occasion that you want to capture the moment for, make sure you give us a call at 443-790-6303. We literally have millions of backgrounds to make your event or occasion really pop. Visit www.melaniesworks.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, guys. You know, we're here with Dr. Aker-Black, and she is doing a phenomenal job of educating us on human trafficking. I mean, I didn't realize it was so enthralled. It is just so many layers, as you said.
Yeah.
You know, and so many connections that these people have. And then, as I said earlier, they have the money, which is the power piece behind it, just keep pushing this billion-dollar industry. Billion-dollar industry. So, Dr. Aker-Black, let's continue on.
Yeah, so another thing, you know, we were kind of talking about the organs. Yeah. So, this is something that's just like so morbid that you wouldn't think that people would do. You know, but when people are desperate and they have money, they'll find anything to do. So if they hear that they have, oh, you only have a month left to live if you don't get this heart, if you don't get this. You know, our medical system is set up to where it has to be a fair process. You know, and so while you may be on the list, if you miss the phone call, they move to the next person. Quickly. You know, so it's like you're in this state of limbo of, is it going to happen, is it not going to happen? And for it to happen, you almost wish, like say for instance, you need a heart. for it to happen, you wish that somebody has to die.
Yeah.
So that you can live. So that's kind of a morbid place to people when people become desperate. And if they have financial means, then that's how we get into the organ harvesting. And I do want to be clear that this is not done in hospitals. Like, they do follow a very strict guideline. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be.
Okay.
They do follow very strict guidelines, and I want to think that our medical system is functioning appropriately.
Okay.
So I will say that.
We will say that.
Yeah, we'll say that. I want to put that out there because I don't want people to say, oh, the doctor's going to say. And you know, in the African American community, we don't trust anybody to do that stuff anyway. So it's like, I do want to put that out there. But yeah, the organ harvesting is kind of, it's always been around, you know, but we're just not shedding light on it. And I mean, trafficking has been around for years. I mean, prostitution is the oldest,
yes, it is,
oldest profession ever. It's been around for years, but the key players, so, you know, where's the money coming from? And it's innocent people that are buying into it, or, you know, people who have the money, who have some, you know, who have access to money, who are, and it's expensive. Like, I can't even tell you what a heart would cost on the black market, but I'm sure it's expensive.
Yeah.
You know,
it doesn't even sound right. A heart on a black market. It just doesn't sound right. It just
or
doesn't
lungs,
sound right.
or, you know, any organ.
Right.
But it happens. It takes place, and it's very, very scary. And so in those situations, well, let me say this caveat: not all healthy people, don't freak out. But they are only going to look for healthy people because they want a heart or they want the organ that's going to
work.
Last. But I don't want my gym rats to go.
Right.
I'm gonna be a victim of human trafficking. Like, I don't want you feeling that way. But you know, you do need to know, because guess what? Where are they going to hang out? These people who, where do you go to socialize, to connect with people, to see what's going on with them? Start, you know, I don't want coffee shops, gyms, clubs. You know, how do we meet people? Think about how we meet people. So our seducers, our traffickers, they are maneuvering and walking in the same, in the midst of us. They're hidden in plain sight. Hidden in plain sight. So we absolutely, this is just a lesson of being more aware of what is out there, because people don't want it. That's the dark side. You know what I mean? People don't want to think about the dark side. People want to think about birds and trees and
rainbows.
Sun and rainbows and
rainbows.
You know, and with your God-given right, so want to think about that. You know, but people don't think about the dark sides of what people would do to get what they want. So this is just an example of how money can make anything possible.
Doctor, can you explain the demographics as far as African Americans? How many African Americans do we have who are in this industry?
So here's the thing. It doesn't discriminate. It takes in everybody. And think about all the little black missing kids that you hear. We have to assume that some of them are caught up in human trafficking. But then think about all of the black and missing kids that we don't hear about. Like, 'cause remember we heard about Natalie Holloway forever down in Aruba. And the little girl that just got murdered down at Virginia Tech. Like our television show was just like on and on and on and on and on. You don't get those same stories with us. So you have to understand that there's like a multitude of us that are missing that nobody has ever shed light on. So unfortunately, I don't know the demographics because we don't get that same kind of media attention, one. And, you know, sometimes when people run away, we just kind of like, girl, you know, she crazy. You know, that's what we do in our community. She'll be back. You know, we have those type of, unfortunately, we have those type of reactions to someone missing if it's something of their nature. And what I mean by that, if you've always been this difficult person, always caused issues, then you're like, oh, well, you know, she's always ran away, she's always done this, she's always done that, she'll surface. You know, it's unfortunate, but you know, it's kind of hard to, if you're a type of individual that keep crying wolf, it's kind of hard to be taken seriously when something serious happens to you. So I tell this to everyone, you just have to be very cautious. You have to be considerate to people in your life. Tell them where you are. Let them know where you are. People should know, people in your life who love you should know where you are. at all times. So it's not this incident of she went missing and don't nobody know where she was, what she was supposed to be. Like if my husband knows, let's say for instance, if my husband knows that I'm working from 9 to 5 at this particular location, you know, if something happens, you know, that's an alert for him to be like, is my wife okay? You know, but if nobody knows where I'm at during that time frame, something could happen, I wouldn't even know. It's kind of like when 9/11 happened. There were people who were missing, who have gone missing, that should not have been at the Trade Center, right? Nobody knows where these people are. Now, there are stories that people ran away because it was the perfect excuse to just leave whatever situation they were in. But then again, maybe they were in the Trade Center. We don't know if they had a meeting in there. You know, we don't know why they were there. If they had a reason to be there, we don't know that. Maybe they went there for breakfast. You know, who knows? We don't know why they were in there, but there were people that were missing. And so for the ones that are left behind, you put them in this tizzy of, I don't know. Like, I don't even know where to go looking for you at. So with your family members, you need to be very predictable with your family members. They need to know where you are. They need to know how to access you. Get the GPS stuff on your phone. I know nobody wants to be tracked down nowadays, you know, but if you ain't doing nothing wrong, it shouldn't be an issue. Now, the people that have an issue with that just because they probably was on their But if you're not doing anything wrong, it shouldn't be an issue. And I'm not trying to like tell people how to run their lives or whatever, but I just want to give you some sound ideas of how to make it easier to find you. Because the worst thing in life is to try to look for someone and you have no idea where to start. You don't know where to start. You know, if I go missing, my husband knows my agenda for the day. You know what I mean? So he's going to at least know, okay, she said she was here. She said she was going, and I talked to her when she was here. The phone records show that she was in this area at this time. You know, you have to give people a way to find you. You have to leave clues. You know, and unfortunately, so many of us, I don't want nobody in my business. I don't want to do this. Or you just do stuff and you feel like I'm grown. Don't nobody need to know what I'm doing, but you just never know.
And I'm glad that you brought that up because I can be like that sometimes. I just like to go. I'll just go. But with so much going on in the world, I definitely will, starting today, leave some evidence of where I'm going. Because you just never know.
You never know.
You never know.
You never know. And they say that we're on camera everywhere that we go. And I do believe that. There's like cameras all over the city, you know. But sometimes cameras don't work. And that has happened in a couple of these cases where people are missing. So we don't know, you know, from that point when we can't see you in that time span, we don't know what happened after the fact. So I remember when I moved here, and you got to be careful who you're associated with too, because just your association can get you caught up. I remember hearing a story about a young lady that lived here in the area who was a corporate, she was professional or whatever, and she went missing. Just went missing. And then they found her maybe about 2 or 3 days later in the backseat of a car in like an apartment building somewhere she would never be. But she was kidnapped for someone that she was associated with. Yeah, and she didn't know the dealings of their association. So it's like you just have to be careful, you know, you have to be careful who you associate with. So trafficking is a huge lesson in teaching you how to vet people and to make sure they are who they say they are. And sometimes, Google will tell you whatever you need to know. But if you get their telephone number, there's a service that you can use that's like $2 and you really figure out who they are. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes we have to be investigative. You know what I mean? When that person seems just too good to be true, I don't want to tell people to be suspicious because there are good people in the world. But be cautious. Be cautious. Be cautious. You know, never put yourself in a position to where someone can take you. So I tell people, you ain't never met that person. Why are you going to their house? When you go out on a first date, you need to drive yourself there, meet them there.
That's right.
Yeah, if you're not driving, then you metro, do something. Tell somebody where you are. I remember when I was dating, I used to have a girlfriend that would come with me. She wouldn't be with me today, but she would just sit in the corner, she just make sure I'm good. You know, and I did the same thing for her. Because when you're, especially as a single woman, you know, And in the age of online dating, where people meet people online and all this stuff, you just gotta make sure you take precautions.
And it's just common sense. Some things is just common sense. I think because we're so open with so many things, like I said, technology just takes it to that level that I think we've never seen before. You know, people can be literally in 2 different states and have an ongoing communication, and you're like, where did that come? Who is that person? You know, with family members, you know, find out what's really going on. So I think it's a piece of common sense that we absolutely have to just embrace. We have to embrace it, we have to use, we have to, you know, apply it. Because it's scary out there.
It's very scary. And, you know, and I don't say this to scare people, for you to look at people, everybody like they're like some unsub that's going to hurt you. I don't say that. But I do encourage you to be aware and open and understand things that are taking place now in this world. Because nobody would ever think that DC is a hot spot for human trafficking. Atlanta is a hot spot for human trafficking. Texas is a hot spot for human trafficking, and California. Those are the hot spots for trafficking that we know of, because people are coming forward, you know, that we know of. But these are the hot spots, and they're here in Baltimore. They not too long ago, maybe a couple of years ago, they had a couple of raids on some human trafficking homes here. So you know, it's these homes that are in these suburban areas. It's not the hood, You know, now some of the stuff does take place in the hood. You know, we do have some of that going on. You know, but human trafficking doesn't always look like the show Hustle and Flow.
And it's designed that way. It's absolutely designed that way. You know, because you won't bring attention. It's low key. You know, it's designed like that.
Absolutely. Hidden in plain sight. Hidden in plain sight. And if you have the money to do it, there's so much you can do.
What do we have to look forward to with so many people being empowered to have the money to push this? For our society to deal with this type of issue is mind-blowing to me.
Well, I will tell you this. The Justice Department is doing a phenomenal job of trying to bring attention to human trafficking and trying to stop human trafficking and getting people on board to understand what it is. So they put a lot of money behind trying to stop human trafficking. I will say that our Justice Department is on board with trying to free people from slavery. But I think what we should do and how we should do it is just have these conversations with our kids. Because if I tell you about how not to be trafficked, when you see it, when I explain to you what it is, when you see it, you'll recognize it, and that's a saving moment for yourself.
That's right.
So we have to really continue to keep having the conversation. Look at ways that we can be a resource. You know, so is your youngest, you have a youngest, she's a teenager?
She's 8.
Yeah, oh, okay, so 8. So when you see something that you recognize that may not be right with her friends, you know, having that conversation, if you feel like they may not get that conversation from their parents, because we all have people in our community that we be like, God bless those children, when we look at the parental skills, you know, so that whole adage of it takes a village, and not to really like insert yourself as this person, but it's easy to have a conversation with kids when they're at your house, they're playing at your house, in a way that makes sense, you know. So like for little kids, like you really got to drill in. Everybody is not your friend. If mommy and daddy has not introduced them to you, then they're not mommy and daddy's friends. But with saying that means you can't have any and everybody at your house too.
Absolutely.
So I say this for single mothers: when you meet a guy, he can't meet your kids right away. You got to be a little selective about who gets to be around your kids, because when you bring everybody around your kids get the idea that everybody is friendly.
That's right.
And then you tell them to call them Uncle so and so. Everybody becomes their uncle, so they don't see, you know. And I'm not, you know, just getting on single mothers for this, but guys too. Men think that a woman can't be dangerous. Yes, she can.
Yes, she can.
She can.
Y'all better look at some of these movies out here.
And that's the misconception, because she's a woman. You think that she can't hurt you. No, women can be dangerous too. So, you know, it may not be that and I hate this term, but it may not be that the baby mama is tripping because you got your child around this woman. She may pick up on something. So as the father, you need to listen to that.
That's right.
Like, she don't need to be keeping your child. You know, because that's what a lot of these single fathers do, you know. And the girls are like, oh, I'll watch it because they're trying to get in good with him. Right. You know, but every woman doesn't need to keep a child. Every woman doesn't need to meet your child. You know, so you have to be selective too, single men, when it comes to your children. Absolutely. You can't bring all types of women around your kids because you have no idea. Because that seduction process is real. With a kid, and it's a new woman, she wants to be liked, so she starts bribing. She starts taking you places. She starts doing stuff for you that she know the mom's never gonna do. Or the mom may not be financially able to do. She's buying a video game. She's buying all this stuff, but we don't know what else she may be doing. Right. And so, not to say that everybody is,
you just have to be
a deviant person, but you just have to be vigilant. And when somebody is that eager to do, and they don't even know your child, it's like, you don't know my kid, you know. So you definitely just have to take precautions of being open with your children, being open with your friends and family. You know, the most vulnerable population is college students on a campus. And the reason why is because you think you're grown. Because we know we're not really grown until we're 25, 26, 30, 35. You think you're grown. And so there's no one monitoring your coming and your going. You know, and if you have the, you know, if you spent the night out a couple of times with, if you met someone you like, then your roommate may not be alerted to, you know, hey, she didn't come home. You know, where is she? And it may not be like another day or so, because sometimes you don't feel like you gotta tell your friends, hey, I'm not coming home. You might get caught up. So so college students are the most vulnerable, or one of the most vulnerable populations, because there's no one monitoring your coming and going. A lot of times there's a lot of drinking and drugs going on, and a lot of times like these older guys, professional guys, may prey on the young girl, like, I'll do this, I'll do that for you, I'll take care of you, that kind of thing. So you just got to be very, very mindful of that. Very just keen and aware that someone knows where you are. You need to have a pack of good friends. When I was in college, I had 7 best friends, and like, we always knew where we were. Even when we were pledging, it was like, look, I think this is where we go. Like, somebody needs to know where you are. You know what I mean? At all times, because somebody needs to know if you are safe or if you are missing. And if you're this type of person that just up and go and don't tell nobody how you dipping and dodging and how you moving, how are we to know you're missing? That's right. And so when you think, when people are like, when you hear these people talking about their family members and missing, like, no, this person does this, because they have a predictable schedule. So they quickly know this person is missing. I don't need 24 hours to know that my child is missing. You know what I'm saying? Like, my child is missing because this is what my child does. You know, that kind of thing. So you need to have a little bit predictability with you for the people around you that love you. I want to talk about some resources. There's this great organization called the Polaris Project. They're doing a wonderful job in the fight against human trafficking. And you can Google them, and they'll give you resources, a hotline that you can call if you are being trafficked. And I apologize, I don't have their number on me, but it's the Polaris Project. That's Polaris. You can reach out to them. They're
based in DC.
They're based in DC, and they'll provide resources to help you get out. You know, they'll help you if you're in a bad situation. If you're being trafficked, they'll provide some resources to, you know, or tools to help you get out of that situation. Or, you know, they have a hotline where you can talk to someone. So they're doing it. I mean, I'm blown away with some of the work that they're doing.
Wow.
They're doing some phenomenal work. In terms of, and Courtney's house is doing some phenomenal work. And all of these, and the Fair Girls Act, Fair Girls, they're doing phenomenal work. All of these agencies, you can donate to them because it takes money.
Yes,
it takes money to save lives. And I know with Courtney's house, and again, you could just Google them, Courtney's house. With Courtney's house, I know that she is trying to build a transitional home. Nice. For girls who have been through. And she has a very, very, very unorthodox way of reaching these girls, but it's because she knows what they went through. And so me trying to be their therapist, but her working with them, she gets them. And so she's like done some phenomenal work. I mean, this woman is out on the streets of DC at 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, trying to save girls. Sometimes her by herself. Yeah, she's an angel. She's an angel to anyone that has gone through this situation. So, guys, if you want to put your money where your mouth is, donate to her so she can get that transitional house.
And apparently we need it. We need it, and you said Texas. Well, we need it throughout the country, but Texas, DC, Atlanta, California. Okay. Those are the main 4 hotspots, but it's happening across the nation. Right. It's happening everywhere. Right. In small cities, big cities, it's happening. Right. It's definitely happening. So guys, again, Dr. Aker-Black did a wonderful job with explaining this subject. And again, if you want to give and support to something that is meaningful and could give someone their life back. Yeah, because Courtney's issue is, Tina, for Courtney's house, her issue is that she saves these girls. Right. But she doesn't have room to keep them off so they go back to the pimp because she doesn't have, so she's out there like trying to save them, but she's struggling with keeping them because the transitional housing. And every state, I think at this point, has a task force for human trafficking. So if you were interested in being a part, if you want to help, I know that there's a specific training that you can go through for Courtney's house here in DC, to where you can become a human trafficking advocate. You could also help with the Polaris Project, but even in your state, there's something, because again, the Justice Department is doing a phenomenal job of bringing awareness. So they're trying to tackle it in every state. Right. So, if this has touched you at some point, or you've known someone who's going through something like this, you just can't sit back and do nothing. Right. Even if you give $1, or even if you give an hour of your time, you are really helping to contribute to the solutions of getting these women, men, and children out of situations that is just unreal. Yeah. It's just unreal. And it could be you. That's the thing with human trafficking. It doesn't discriminate. It could be any of us. And just give the scenario. You're going to the mall, and you meet this nice looking guy, nice looking girl, and you don't even know their connection. Yeah. You don't even know what the real meaning behind the meet is. Absolutely. And you can be taken from your surroundings, taken to an unknown place, and your world, as you knew it, is just gone. Gone. You're drugged up, given alcohol, and if you're in the sexual part of you having sex with men and women all day, and the younger you are, the better. The easier it is to sell you. Yeah. And that is so intricate. It moves so quickly. That the selling process, I hate to akin into like the Underground Railroad, but you know how they're able to maneuver. That's how it kind of works, and they have the money to get you in and out, so, it's. Ladies and gentlemen, we can help this cause. We can help. Even if it's, talking to some children, giving them a picture of what this looks like, connecting with the teams. I know a lot of organizations, particularly in the Baltimore, D.C. area, they're doing a lot of great work with the youth project. This would be a good subject to talk about. Oh, yeah. This is how you get the information disseminated. So this is what we need. We need connections like this. We need information like this, ongoing conversations about what's going on here. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Because it doesn't start with just one. It doesn't. No. Dr. Eji, thank you so much for, just blessing the forum. You always talk about good things. We talk about good subjects that people need to talk about. We don't necessarily want to talk about, but we need to have that ongoing conversation. So thank you. Thank you for having me. And tell everyone how they can contact you. Oh yeah, you can reach me at IamDrRoz.com. Okay, that's plain and simple. That's plain and simple. So that's how you can get in contact with this wonderful lady who's great, great advice, great information. So guys, Until the next time, you guys take care of yourselves.
Don't change that channel. We have a new music from Donald Robinson. You can listen to Donald's music by visiting his website at donaldrobinsonmusic.net.
You have made my life complete, and I love you so. Love me tender, love me true, all my dreams fulfill. Oh, my darling, I love you, and I always will. Love me tender, love me long, take me to your heart, for it's there that I belong and will never part. Love me tender, love me true, all my dreams fulfill. For my darling, I love you, and I always will. Love me tender, love me dear, tell me you are mine. I'll be yours through all the years, till the end of time. Love me tender, love me true, all my dreams fulfill. Oh, my darling, I love you, and I always will.
Hey, did you read the article in Melanie's memo about black versus white? What side do you choose when you're both? If not, visit melaniesmatters.blogspot.com or visit www.melaniesworks.com.